Hello. This is Blues with SaturnBluesGaming. And now that I've firmly detached myself from Umamasume Pretty Derby, I can get back to the second thing this channel is known. And that's reactions. And today, this is going to be a pretty interesting one. Because as someone who's, done Japan, I've always wanted to know what was like other people's experience with it. So, here we are. So, no, you don't want to move to Japan by Jax. First of all, shout out to Jax for making this video. Now, let's put down the music. As you can see, I already watched like 16 seconds. Yeah, just a 16. So we're just gonna go back real quick and let's start the show.
The Japanese archipelago. While in America, we have the boring and stinky metropolis known as Place. Have you ever tried visiting Place, Japan? Ever seen this boring sight? What about in Japan? Well, this shouldn't be the only thing convincing you to move to this beautiful country. How about the wonderful work culture? Everyone here is treated fairly, and everyone... especially foreigners,
even had a company say that employees need to pay them when they miss work,
are given plenty of work opportunities at some of the world's fastest growing and technologically advanced companies. Or maybe you want to move here for the culture, which is fair and equal. It treats everyone, regardless of race or sex, with respect and... Okay, fine, I'll stop glazing Japan. I'm sure you all have heard enough of that. Japan, for those living in -1 billion, has basically become a global cultural powerhouse, second only to really the United States and maybe Europe. What you are saying, bro? Europe is a continent, bro? We are different countries, bro. Typical America. Either way, most of this cultural significance is both the result of the aftershocks created by the Japanese economic miracle throughout the 70s and 80s, as well as anime becoming wildly popular abroad within the past decade or so. This cultural mega status has made the idea of Japan become more and more romanticized as time has gone on. I mean,
now that's true. That is true. Anime has really like how K-pop and K-dramas have like romanticized like South Korea to a lot of people. Anime did that first with Japan. Like, I remember when I was younger, I would just sit there and be like, man, I would love to go to see Japan. I would love the language. I just want to soak myself in the waters of that. I don't know a Japanese alternative to Lake Minnetonka, but you get my point. So I get exactly what you're saying. Anime has been the biggest, like honestly, the biggest export that Japan could ever give. Like, honestly, I know there's like some other stuff, but the way Japan was able to bounce back, because a lot of people don't know that, I believe, was it Astro Boy that came out right after World War II? Hold on, hold on. Okay, so it looks like Momotaro Sacred Sailors was like the first like anime in Japan. It was the first anime. It got a 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb, but 87 people liked the movie. Yeah, 1945, directly after World War II. So this is the first anime like outside of that, and this would honestly start the boom. Like it wouldn't hit until like a little bit later, but this was the very first. Okay. That makes it easier.
You've probably seen it. If you go to your average high school 13 years ago and say, hey, has anyone seen that new episode of Steins? Yeah, you probably end up like that guy. Nowadays, if you say something like, yo, anyone see that new episode of One Piece? At least one person of every ethnic and racial background on Earth will materialize into the room you're in and swarm you to engage in a lively debate about what just happened on their favorite cartoon last night. at least in America. The difference this has had on American culture, and thus by proxy, the rest.
Okay, so you all can kill me for this, but I never watched One Piece. I've never read the manga. All what I know about One Piece is through osmosis. Like, my brother spent 2 hours once trying to explain One Piece and trying to get me to be a fan, and I left out of it with the biggest headache in the world. And while that's like my favorite memory of me and my younger brother, I can't remember anything that he said about it. But like, I've never seen One Piece. I never read the manga. And it's not for lack of not wanting to, because I actually want to. Like, I remember it would be like on like 4Kids, whatever. And I saw like a little, and like, you know, between like Zatch Bell and Fighting Foodons, remember Fighting Foodons? And I would see Luffy. And I was like, oh man, that's really cool, but I never got a chance to watch it. And then when I thought I had the time, I looked at the episode count. It was like back in 2020. You know, like COVID had just started. And I looked at the episode count and the manga count. I was like, no way. I'm just going to watch this D&D series called Critical Role. Yeah. At that point, I should have just watched One Piece, because they're both like shorter episodes, sure, but like 100 and so episodes of like 4 to 6 hours. At that point, I should have just watched One Piece. I went from one rabbit hole to another. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much my One Piece story.
Of the world has catapulted Japan into a new cultural renaissance in a sense.
True.
What's funny is that, historically speaking, this isn't the first time this has happened. You have an influence on Portuguese and Spanish art in the late 17th and early 18th centuries due to things learned from Europe's first contact with Japan, and the Japanese movement in the late 19th century, spurred on by an increasingly open Japan starting in 1858. For whatever reason, Japan and its culture have captivated the world multiple times throughout history. However, things are different now. Rather than a passing interest in Japan or a more reserved, oh yeah, they're pretty cool attitude that the rest of the world has towards them, we've seen an ever-increasing idealization of what can just be seen as another part of the world out of many.
What the? Wait, what? Wait, hold on.
We've seen an ever-increasing idealization of what can just be seen as another part of the world out of many.
Japan is obsessed with butts? What the hell is that video? I need to look at that. What the hell? But you know what? The opposite is true too. Because while we're really fascinated with Japan, and it's understandable, anime really played a huge part. But like, one thing that Japan has, like a lot of countries outside of America, you know what America has in terms of like mythology? Exactly, nothing. But when you look at like other countries, you know, like in like Greece, you know, they have the Greek gods, you know, like in Rome, you have the Roman gods, you know, Japan, you have, you know, their gods. Like, there's so much history in like all those countries. Like for me, like learning about like their like pantheon is what you know, turned me to like Japan, you know, like going, isn't Izanagi, who the hell is that? God, a lightning. What? I need to understand this. Amaterasu. Like, what? What the hell is Amaterasu? Like, that's what kind of turned me on to it. But the opposite could be said with Japan, because Japan has a huge obsession with French culture. A huge obsession. Like, I remember I had like a dear friend of mine, you know, once told me that Japanese people, I'm not sure if this is still true, but at the time, Japanese people, when they would come back from France, will actually have to go to like, I don't know if it's called a self-help class or not, but they would have to go to a class to like to demystify France because of disillusionment. Oh my God, disillusionment. So it's not just, you know, people flocking to Japan. Like Japan can have it too with other countries. So it's not just it going one way, it can go the other way. And with Korea, with South Korea especially, South Koreans love the United States. They always come to the United States. Like their whole, like, I've seen and heard so many like South Korean voices, you know, some that live in the US, some that live out, that go like South Korea is obsessed with the United States. They're obsessed with it. So like, it's not just people looking at Japan, you know, with that. A lot of countries have that exact same thing. So it's not like a one-way street, you know? What the hell is that video?
I know not all of you venerate Japan as some kind of utopia, but a lot of people nowadays definitely have this idealized view of Japan in some form or another. Whether that be the belief of a superior nature, culture, art, media, fashion, etc. I've gotten pretty tired of the ridiculous amount of hype surrounding Japan, which is often propped up by unrealistic expectations and, for better or for worse, anime. You might be thinking, on what authority can I have commentary on Japan? It's not like I've been there. Yeah, I've been there. And it was by far the most interesting trip I've ever been on.
Agreed.
I'll weave my experiences in and out of the video as needed, but I want to focus on a bigger picture viewpoint of the country before I dive deeper. The question I'm seeking to answer, broadly speaking, is this. Is Japan really all that amazing? Or is it just another part of the world that has its own goods and bads like any...
Yeah, goods and bads. Like, goods and bads. Like, Japan's, like, culture is amazing. You know, being able to see the shrines and temples and, you know, all of that is amazing. The nature aspect of Japan is beautiful. Like, I feel like it's second to none, really. Like, I mean, the UK, yeah, it has like castles. Like, and that's really, really cool. Like New Zealand, they have that on a nature front too. Like, I remember seeing a picture of like these long and beautiful like plains, and I can't remember the name of it. America, we got some stuff, but it's like it's not really much. Like America, like I said, America has, the only thing America has is you know, the culture that we gave it. You know, that's all America has. Outside of that, America doesn't really have anything breathtaking. Oh yeah, Mount Rushmore. Oh yeah, 4 dead presidents on the thing. Yeah, great. You know, mythology. Do we really have a mythology? I mean, we have folk tales. You know, John Henry, that old tired thing. That's a folk tale. Johnny Appleseed. Do we have? Yeah, I can't think of anything. Like, the only mythology this country seems to have is the mythology about the presidents. That's literally it. Like, it doesn't have like the established, like, it doesn't have the established stuff that all other countries have. Like, Egypt has, you know, Ra and Nefertiti and Isis and all of that, you know. Like, India, you know, has like Shiva, and like there's a lot with India. Like, so many countries, you know, and then Africa has like Anansi, which is my personal go-to. America doesn't have that. So I can understand how Americans will look at other countries with that stuff and go, I want in, especially on the nature front. Like, I've been all through, you know, out, you know, America, you know, I've taken road trips. I've been, you know, all over the place. Vegas, there, you know, Texas, you know, Canada, like, and I know Canada's not America, but like in general, in the North American like continent, you know, I've been to those places. And like Canada has beautiful spots. Like it has beautiful spots, don't get me wrong. But America really doesn't, if that makes sense. And it may sound like I'm shitting on America hard. And I have a lot of reasons for that. But like, as speaking of someone that's had that, you know, ideation for another country, I'm just kind of giving my experience as to why, you know, I went through it and how some people I know went through that. You know, anime is a big thing, but like it's not the only thing. Like the nature of it too, in a lot of places. Mount Fuji is breathtaking. You know, being able to see it. Like Hawaii. Actually, I take that back. The only country I feel has that sort of like beauty is Hawaii. Hawaii is very beautiful. But like on the mainland, and Puerto Rico too. Puerto Rico is actually a really beautiful place. I know some people are like, oh, it's a shit, you know, it's a shithole. No, it's not. It's actually very beautiful. Puerto Rico is a very beautiful place. But again, that's like more off land, you know? Mainland, what do we have? Mount Rushmore, Grand Canyon, maybe the Statue of Liberty, maybe. Yeah, that's all I got. I got nothing after that. And people don't seem to care about nature all that much. Like the majority of people don't seem to care about nature all that much in America. And so it's like, and like to the point they're actively trying to get rid of national parks, you know, sell it to the highest bidder, you know? So it's like, we really don't care much. Like, I bet if someone could turn America into like Night City, they would without hesitation. There would be no green on this in this fucking country. And that's just me. That's just, you know, me being honest. Oh, I let me get off my high horse and continue the video.
Where else on Earth? You can probably guess what my answer is to that question, but let's actually take a deeper, more objective dive into both the good and bad things about Japan on a generalized basis. Without further ado, welcome, ladies and gentlebakas, to Japan. Now, to begin, is Japan a bad country? No, not even close. Sorry, contrarian edgelords, I'm not going to be bashing the country as a whole for just having some issues. As an American, we all know how big of a double standard that would be. To prove that
we do give you like those in the UK a lot of shit. And really it's not so bad. Like I in some places it's not so bad. Like I've always wanted to go to like London quite a bit, you know? Like France. Oh, I would love to go to France. But I would say France is a recent thing. Is a recent like want to do, thanks to the propaganda of Claire Obscura, Expedition 33, and Lies of P, to name a few, and Code Lyoko. But we don't talk about that last one with their big ass foreheads.
I genuinely do believe Japan has some really amazing things about it. Let's talk about some of them, largely from personal experience. Just to get it out of the way, yes, I do think Japanese animation, as of now, is just better than Western animation. This isn't because of some immutable characteristic or a coolness factor, and I do have some objective reasons behind this. For starters, Western animation for the longest time has been dominated by a top-down system, And this way, independent artists or production teams pitch shows to networks who have boards that decide to greenlight them or toss their pitch Bibles in the trash. The show, in America and much of the Western world, does not see the light of day unless an executive gives it the go-ahead. In Japan, however, the system is largely bottom-up. For an anime to be created in the first place, it needs to be based on an already successful property created by an individual or small team of artists from the manga space. While these are often published by large companies, with the notable exception of stuff like...
Hey, I saw Hiei. That's actually quite true. Not to mention, a lot of the Western animation in the United States tend to just get canceled. Like, there could be some really good ones, because for the longest time, a lot of people in America would only think of like anime in the same lens of Saturday morning cartoons. Like, it doesn't, does that make sense? Like, there has to have like a moral of the day. It has to have super goofy, like bang bang, sound effects and things like that. It's only until like recently where we've seen like Western animation have much more depth. Like Avatar: The Last Airbender, clearly a Western. Like, that's not an anime, but it has so much more depth to it. Hell, even like recent stuff like the Owl House has like depth, to it. And we are starting to see more of a trend of adult animation. Like, we had some back then too, like Spawn or like Stripperella. Don't judge me. I was a boy. But outside that, you had Spawn, like Gargoyles. Fucking Gargoyles was like really deep on that type of depth too. And ironically enough, Freakazoid, like anything that appealed to a more like, if executives will see a product and if it appeals more to like adults than, kids, they're going to cancel it. It always happens. Like in the past, that's why stuff like Freakazoid got canceled. Why Gargoyles didn't last that much longer. Cyber 6 pisses me off till this day that it only got the one fucking season. But like, another example, Cyber 6. Like, so Western animation was not taken seriously up until recently. Like, up until recently, it wasn't taken seriously. Meanwhile, with anime, you already had like, it could like that varied from the start. You could have something silly like Shin-Chan, but you could also have something serious like Cowboy Bebop. You could have something, or Gundam. Like, Gundam itself is a very, like, pick out any of the shows, were very, very serious. You could have something like spooky, like can't think of the name. But there's one anime in particular. It was like a set of like short like stories. And it was kind of like, my sister knows it, but not Junji Ito's stuff that like was fantastic first episode and then it jumped off a cliff for the rest. No, it's kind of like an old one. I just can't think of the name at the moment. But you can have something like with horror and then have something, beautiful. Like all the movies like My Neighbor Totoro, for like, you had My Neighbor Totoro, you had the World 2 one. For the life of me, I can't think of it at the moment. Like, with the girl and it had like the tin of candy and like, Grave of the Fireflies. There we go. Grave of the Fireflies. And that's I know that's like an animated movie, but my point still stands. Anime could be anything. And it was always taken very seriously. And while Western animation never had that until, you know, recently. That's all I wanted to say. So, and then when it was taken seriously, executives would find a reason to get rid of it. Like they wouldn't, like, do you know how many good shows on Netflix were Western animations and they just got snapped, you know, by the executives? A lot. And it pisses me off. Like, we just recently, like, what's our biggest serious, like, Western animation? BoJack Horseman. BoJack Horseman is, like, I feel is a real serious one. And that's, like, just one of them that I'm thinking about. But yeah, Western animation is now getting to, like, oh, wait, animation can be something beautiful. It can be horror. It can be more than just children's stuff. Well, you know, Japan was already on the ball with that. But Japan has its own problems. Like this, for example, you know, like it has to have a set, you know, it has to already come from a popular, you know, thing, and then it goes down. If it ain't popular, because I've read some manga, like Immortal Rain is a manga that deserves to have like a 3-season show or 4-season show. Immortal Rain was my first ever manga. I might do a video on it actually, but that deserves a show. But it just didn't get a lot of love, you know. But I digress. I spent too long on the subject.
One Punch. A property needs to be successful due to the work put in by an individual, which greatly
Yo,
increases its chances of
Yusuke!
getting a full animated rendition. This system, while not immune to the predatory practices and abuse by publishers that we'll talk about later, it does result in a better, more fleshed out show as opposed to Western networks which constantly try to create the next SpongeBob or something and focus on comedy and pre-existing franchises to make a quick, guaranteed buck. Yes, Japan is indeed a beautiful place. While it's not the only beautiful place on Earth, there are certainly few countries which are as consistently beautiful as Japan in my opinion. Riding on the Shinkansen and watching large open fields go by with mountains in the distance, or taking a $12 round-trip funicular to the top of some mountain to see the best views my eyes have ever laid themselves upon, or literally taking a local train to the airport on my way out. Japan genuinely is one of the most beautiful countries I've ever visited. And that's saying something after I've climbed mountains in the Alps, hiked through Grand Tetons, and marveled at St. Peter's Basilica. However, I'm not going to pretend that Japan is pretty everywhere. Just like the US, just like Europe, just like anywhere else, it has its more boring and dull places. Don't believe me? Let's do an experiment. To try it for yourself, go to Japan on Google Maps. Then drag the Street View marker to basically anywhere north of the Tokyo Metro. There's a pretty solid chance you're going to land somewhere that isn't ugly, but isn't the most beautiful place you've ever laid eyes on. Or let's just take the opposite approach. Drop it literally anywhere, pretend you don't see Japanese text, maybe at a Walmart and a mobile gas sign, and oh, there we go. We've just invented rural Montana. All that aside though, Japan is definitely a culture that values and appreciates natural beauty, so you get more spots like this compared to this. Yes, the people here are very polite. The only rudeness...
So, brings up a good point. Like, there are places in Japan that's like, you're like, holy shit. Whoa, like Shibuya, fucking whoa. When you're there, fucking whoa. Like, you know that scene in the first Captain America movie where like he finds out that he's actually in the present at the time, and then he like runs out to the street, and then it's like the camera's panning as he's looking at all of the buildings, the glitz and glamour, the signs. He's just like, holy shit. That's how it was when I first like got to Shibuya. I was like, oh, holy shit. What the? Whoa. It was amazing. I felt like Steve Rogers, fully fish out of water. But then you go to some place that looks like shit, like fucking, that looks like one of the locations in the first Shinmu. And I know you guys don't like get that reference, so I'll show you. Hold on. There you go. I'm back. Sorry about that. I had to find a good spot. But then you wind up in a place that looks like this. And that ain't even the worst of it. That's not even the worst of it. Like, I may have to do a playthrough of Shenmue just to kind of give a better example. But yeah, like some places are like, oh, other places are like, oh, this is one of those oh places. This is one of them. It's so jarring when it happens too. Like, it's so jarring. Like, holy shit. Also, to add on to that, it's not just the anime that'll make people want to go, because thanks to who I firmly believe put Yakuza on the map in the United States, the two best friends played Let's Play channel, Yakuza / Like a Dragon. Like, literally, like, that game and all the games after it has painted a really like picture of Japan too. So I hope he talks about that in his video too, because that's painted a picture for a lot of people.
I ever encountered here was from some like middle-aged North English dude who I caught the glance of a couple times at a gyoza restaurant, only for him to walk by me and say, "You're a fucking deckhead," multiple times before his friend came and apologized for him because he was very drunk apparently, which I've never heard of any British person ever being drunk in my life before, if you can believe it. Every person I encountered would always try their best to be friendly, inviting, and always greet me or whoever I was with a smile. And to the Western-born Japan glazers racing to the comments to tell me how I was probably oblivious to the fact that they are shy and won't really tell people off, first of all, that's not true. I've seen it happen. And second of all, I make sure to be as polite and gracious as possible when it comes to interacting with different cultures. I'm not running around Shinjuku with my shirt off spouting expletives at locals like what might happen in the walled city of New York or Trenton, New Jersey or something. However, as I mentioned earlier, a major drawback with this politeness is that, yeah, Japanese people are quite shy. I'll go more into this later, but it's just a caveat to everything I've said so far. Yes, as a musician myself, Japanese music is really secondary only to American music and beats it in some respects, and its ability to weave different styles and customs together to create some really cool and unique fusion music. Classical rock fusion, an inherently unique style of jazz and funk, Vocaloid, basically most modern genres of music you hear today are either descended from American or Japanese forms of music, or at the very least are echoes of earlier styles from those countries.
But really quickly, we have to do Tubuck Troop Roll Call. That jarred the shit out of me. Yeah, I agree. Like city pop, like I don't know what it is, because like, you know that scene in Sinners where Preacher Boy starts singing "I Lied to You," and then like the past, present, and future, you know, come up in it, and it makes you feel some sort of way. I get like that with like some American music, like mostly the blues. Like, you ever hear that moody type, like like kind of something like that, and then next you know, you're going from sitting at your computer to fucking sitting in the dark, rain drizzling, you know, and you're sitting there in a fucking fedora, you know, a fucking trench coat, smoking a cigarette, going, of all the places she had to arrive here. Like, it transports you into a detective story, right? Like, music has a way to transport you. And I've had so many feelings when it came to like city pop songs, and not even just like the big famous ones like Plastic Love or Stay With Me or 56709. Like, outside of those, I've never had music transport me into like, it felt like I was playing Yakuza 0. Whenever I listen to city pop, it literally felt like I was living in Yakuza 0 all the time. Like, and it was crazy because I never been to Japan at all in the 80s, but it like transports you there. Like, it's just something about it. And you know, I get that same way with like the blues, you know, and other songs that I listen to, but I get that the most with city pop. So music is also the second, and before K-pop, there was J-rock, World. Don't lie to yourself and don't lie to me. If you weren't like 13 years old, listen to World, because you were, and going, man, World sounds awesome, or listen to like, or trying to, because at the time on like ancient YouTube, we didn't have the luxury of like just looking up, you know, like we didn't have the luxury of like having a full opening to Dan Da Dan season 1. We didn't have that. We had to hope someone would get even a good quality version of a full song and post it onto YouTube. And then when they did, guess what happened? Someone would take it down and you'll never find it again. You kids today got it lucky. You got it lucky. Don't say that you don't. I've been there. I've been in the trenches. But having to sit there and search up Fighting Dreamers. Having to search up Oust to Dragon Ball Z, the Bruce Falconer version. Like Through the Night from Outlaw Star. I had to replay. I recorded that shit on video so I could listen to the opening over and over. Calling from Fatal Fury movie, the second one, had to wore out the family video tape because I kept listening to that song over and over. You kids got it lucky these days. Fucking hate it here. I got distracted. But yeah, the music of Japan definitely is like I feel like nowadays K-pop is just kind of like taking over. But for a long time, like J-rock and like all that stuff was like very like loved. And not loved in American culture, but it was like it was getting there, and then K-pop just ran over it. And now when you listen to a Japanese song, most people be like, what anime is it from? And don't lie. Because a lot of them, like sometimes you can kind of tell, like when you listen to World, for example, like before like Bleach came out, like before that, I would listen to World and, you know, think of it as a normal song. Now I listen to World and I go, okay, what anime did this come from? And that's just one band. That's just like one band, for example. A lot of Japanese people, a lot of Japanese music nowadays, people will just ask straight out, what anime did it come from? I'm trying to get put on. Like that's pretty much how people treat Japanese songs nowadays, is what anime did it come from? And that sucks. But it's understandable. Because it's later, like Fully Cooley, like The Pillows. You guys know what I'm talking about. Like the ending thing. Down. Where I started yapping, and I don't remember what I was yapping, how I got to the subject. Holy shit. Okay, let's just continue the video. Holy shit.
Unusual Chief Guy Finn, Yellow, Premier Tabu TV Cat Mask, Jeff 2, Sokatone Soldier, Andy, Maggie Gordon, alongside
the fast forward. I'm sorry. I had to.
If you want to live anywhere on Earth, unless it's in some magical commune inside an anarcho-socialist head, you got to get your broke ass off the couch and go make some money. But
yes,
how exactly would you do this around the world? Well, for now, let's just ignore the whole, yeah, you can't just work for us when you're on a tourist visa, sir, shtick that people love telling me. In America, let's find, okay, here's little Joshua, all right? He's 17 years old and ready to start working. Let's give him a job at Chipotle, I guess. You get like 5 people that come up to the line all like, hey man, can I get a chicken burrito, but please remove the seasoning and tortilla and add a few sprinkles of Hawaiian volcanic salt glass on top and maybe a squirt of horseshoe crab blood on top, and you just make it and put up with whatever. You get paid $15 an hour, which isn't great, but if you split a plate with some of your friends and you have a little side hustle or passion project going for you, you can definitely sustain yourself for now. You can also just up and quit if your boss is annoying you, you're tired of the job, or if you want to move on to somewhere else. We can even extrapolate this to higher education. Let's say you're a computer science major who, after wrestling a music major for the last bet at the homeless shelter, finally are able to extract enough energy from a nearby power line to both charge your laptop and pass an interview from some billion-dollar mega corporation who just opened their first CS position since the Precambrian. You're probably not paid as much as you like, but a lot of larger companies offer good benefits, bonuses for high performance, and a hopefully suitable work culture that can help propel you to the next level of your career, whether that be through promotions or applying learned experience at a new company.
Depending.
Now let's relocate little Joshua to the nation of Japan with a brand new working visa. Where can you end up? Well, you got about 3 options. The first one, and one of the more common ones for younger people, is being an English teacher.
Yep.
People seem to think this one's easy to get, but
it is not.
Let's just see that's really the case. The requirements are pretty reasonable. Are you fluent in Japanese? If not, good luck. You might be able to land a position as an assistant teacher or as a teacher in an international school. If you fill the requirements somewhat, good luck being picked out of potentially hundreds of applicants to any given job. Even if you fill all the perfect requirements, good luck making a living wage, enjoying a less stressful life, on top of learning to integrate yourself with local culture and adjusting to a radically different lifestyle. According to this poster where they say, who from the West can live on $1,300 take home each month? Even if rent is only $400, you'd be living on $900 a month. Literally, Japanese McDonald's employees make around $1,200 per month take home. As a trained and qualified English teacher in Japan, you're making less than if you had worked at a McDonald's in America and Japan. And that's after going through the massive Japanese bureaucracy to both be allowed to work there, paying to get over there, and getting set up in the first place.
Teachers just don't get any respect, huh? No matter where. Like I thought at least that in some countries teachers would get paid what they deserve to get paid, but apparently not. Apparently not. Sorry, I had to move it back. But yeah, apparently that's not the case. Teachers do an important job. Yes, you have your dicks, but they do an important job of not only, you know, putting some smarts in your kids' brains, well, depending on their kid, you know, but getting like, I'm not gonna get on my soapbox about what teachers do, because they do a lot. You know, not only, you know, giving education to, you know, the children, but also, depending on some children, giving them a passion, you know? And teachers are so underpaid and so overworked that it's literally not fair. Like we have people that can put a ball in a hoop and kick a ball through a fork, getting paid multi-million dollars. But a teacher doesn't even get that. Like that they buy, like the horror stories I've like had from friends that are teachers is just astounding. Like it's to the point where like they have to buy their own school supplies for children to use. Like they have to plan curriculums. Like teachers need to be paid higher across the board. They need to be held in the same regard as scientists. And I know I'm saying this in 2025 where people have decided that being ignorant is, you know, smarter than being a scientist who went to school to learn this stuff. Like, oh yeah, you know, I heard from Joe Rogan that they made vaccines out of bugs. Like, yeah, like off the just teachers deserve a lot more respect than countries give them. And in a better world, and in a just world, teachers would be the ones that are getting paid millions. And that's not me saying like people who do sports don't deserve it. There's a lot. Sports I never said this before, but I feel like sports is the modern day slavery. And I do feel that with my entire chest. And I will say that with my entire chest. Like, you're taking, and you know what? I'm not getting into that conversation. That's a conversation for later. All I'm saying is teachers should be paid as much as people who do sports. That's what I want to say. And that's not just in the United States. That's all over the world. Teachers need to have the respect that they truly deserve.
Paying for daily transportation and everything in between. But as I said earlier, being an English teacher is a job that, despite the low pay for high qualifications, can at least be understood for being in this position. It's a lower demand, high supply industry that is shrinking by the year, on top of, needing the proper qualifications to have the job. Okay, let's pivot away from that to more traditional industries. Congratulations, little Joshua, you've been promoted.
I have?
Yeah, I want to give you your very own diploma.
Oh, gee, thanks.
Now you can work at a higher skill company of your choosing, but choose wisely because Japan has a wide variety of work environments from chill to... Anyways, good luck. Alright, it's been about 3 months. Let's check in on little
Oh, no.
Hey there, buddy. What's up?
I haven't gotten more than 4 hours of sleep in weeks. Almost every night I go out drinking with my boss until we puke.
Yep.
Most nights I miss the last call for the metro, so I can't even go home. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, if you're a salaryman in Japan, get ready to live the lives that 19-year-old unionized Starbucks baristas think they do. Your bosses treat you as expendable. You live and work, quote, 40 hours a week, but you're often secretly required to work more. While what this poster said isn't going to be what everyone experiences, on a general note, it is unfortunately a common thing in Japan. Quote, my wife, Japanese, works a minimum of 14 hours a day, 30 hours overtime a week. If she tries to get help to reduce her hours, the response is that she is inefficient at her work and needs to work faster. 14 hours a day! That leaves you a maximum of 2 hours of free time if you want to get 8 hours of sleep. In Japan, it's entirely expected for you to go out drinking with your boss very frequently. Does this seem like a dumb idea? Yeah, it does to us living in guild cultures at least. Expecting that from somebody in America and making them feel like shit the next morning just for the sake of a drinking challenge would make many of us, regardless of status, probably feel pretty guilty. But in Japan, a lot of times it's an expectation. If you don't go out that night to drink with your boss that you don't even like, good luck having any future job prospects within the company or gaining the respect of your employer. On top of this, because a constant, well-organized output of work is constantly required, lest you bring shame upon yourself, things better not change at the company, and you better not bring any concerns up to your boss. And the thing is, if you don't suck up to your boss or authority figure in some way, you're gonna get absolutely shafted and go nowhere very quickly. This is all pretty bad, but to be completely fair, not 100% of Japan is this way. Not every company's gonna treat you like garbage, ignoring the fact that you're a foreigner, and you're not always gonna be working 45 hours of overtime a month. On top of this, much of the world also sees unfair practices such as this. So, you might be asking, how does Japan uniquely stand out in this category among developed countries?
Yeah, South Korea also has that. And like not to that extent, but like treat the workers like shit. Like America has like its problems like dealing with the workforce. And trust me, there are a lot of problems. A lot. Especially as customer service. You know how I just said teachers deserve to be paid millions? Customer service reps deserve a few millions too. Because we dealt with the worst of humanity day in and day out. Like, there are even thinking about customer service puts me in a bad mental headspace. But it's also very, like, despite all the trouble that customer service work has given me, if I had to choose between that and whatever the fuck Japan has going on in their workforce, I choose customer service in America. No matter what. And like I said, that's a hard pill to swallow. If I could choose, I'd love to, work in the UK where they have fair wages, fair vacation time and things like that. Like, it sickens me that like people aren't expendable no matter where you are. we aren't expendable. You know, we have people that love us and care for us, and we deserve respect no matter who you are. I don't understand the worth ethic in Japan and South Korea for that thing. This is more about Japan. It's actually shocking. Like, could you imagine, like, you like drinking with your boss? What if your boss is an alcoholic? That's every single night of drinking. Imagine if they stay at the bar all night. You can't leave. You have to stay there too. You have to wait for him to leave, and then you can leave. You're alcoholism buddies now. It's just horrible.
Yeah, we have yet to talk about the wonders that are known as... What's a black company, you might ask? Well, imagine the worst case scenario of a job I just mentioned and make it even worse. How exactly? Well, we have a wonderful source here from this utterly fascinating Instagram account called literally Salaryman Tokyo. He details his day-to-day life working for one of these companies. In this video, our hero describes an utterly horrific work culture. Oftentimes, black companies target young workers or foreigners, like our little Joshua, because they genuinely just haven't heard about black companies or the work environment. They'll work you to death, giving you meaningless tasks and threats if you don't complete them on time. Bosses don't want to help you, nor do they care about you in the first place, and just expect you to sit down and shut up. You just work all day, tirelessly, lest you summon the rage of your boss, all to make it home in the bum-ass middle of the night to get like 7 hours of sleep if you're lucky. Well, gee, that sounds kind of bad. I'd quit right away if I were them. Yeah, right. Let's say that you've had enough and you're sick of being treated like glorified property. Let's think of the man and tell him that I quit. Yeah, we're gonna sue the shit out of you.
Holy shit.
What? Yep, if you leave, we're just gonna have to sue you down to every last atom of concrete in the foundation of your house. Yeah, you heard that right. Your own company that treats you horribly, almost like they didn't want you to be there, will make sure that you're walking away from them pretty much empty-handed. And even if you can avoid this fate, they're probably gonna sabotage your future job prospects by emailing future employers and trying to blackmail you.
Yeah. Fun, like, real talk. I saw some videos on YouTube about a woman who needed to quit her job, and she had to hire someone to quit her job for her. Outrageous. Outrageous. That's crazy talk. Can you imagine? Let me put that into perspective. Hi, my name is Blues. I want to quit my job at Wonderful Fox Lodgings. Yeah, we're not going to let you quit your job. Well, okay, that's like, what do you mean you're not going to let me quit? You're not quitting your job. We're going to sue you if you quit. Oh, I guess I'll just hire this. And then you're scrolling through and you see your job won't let you quit. Well, call us down here at Saturn Services, where we can get you out of your job without you losing any money. You call that number, you get a lawyer, like a quitter lawyer, and they negotiate you quitting. That's outrageous. Can you imagine? And then you have to, no doubt, you have to pay the guy, your lawyer, for negotiating you quitting that job. That's outrageous to me. That is outrageous.
Again, since Japan is largely a shame-based culture, many of these companies will, out of fear of bringing shame upon their company and customers, not hire you. On top of that, even if you get past that stage, they might make you write an apology letter to guilt trip you. They're playing to both shame and guilt culture here, which is truly sinister.
It is. And I was just going to bring that up too, but I'm glad he did. Yeah, I have a friend who had to quit a job in Japan, and he asked me for help in trying to figure out how to word his apology letter for quitting. And not only did he had to send this in the letter, he had to send it not only to his boss, but his boss's higher ups. Do you know how crazy that is? So say you got a dude to help you quit your job. And okay, you know what? I've been saying that, and I'm not giving like, hold on. Let me see if I can find something. Hold on. All right, it took me a bit, but I found it. And they're called resignation agencies, by the way. But sorry for this, but
you can hire somebody to quit your job for you in Japan, and I did not understand why until I quit my first job here. As soon as I turned in my resignation letter, it was like a criminal trial had started. My boss, my boss's boss, my boss's boss's boss, they sat down and grilled me. They for real wanted an apology with tears. It was not enough to tell them that I had gotten a better job. They wanted to know all the details. What my new job would be, how long I'd stay there, what my salary was gonna be. And I had heard of people here whose old job tried to sabotage their new job with this kind of information, so I was stressed. And mind you, I come from a country where I had coworkers who wrote "I quit" on a napkin and were never seen again. So yeah, this was quite the culture shock. After they finally accepted my reason for leaving, they still wanted an apology letter and for me to give a speech to the staff saying sorry to them as well. So it might actually make sense to literally pay someone to help you quit your job here. You can hire,
and they're called resignation agencies. And I didn't even know that she had to give a speech. Because I remember seeing this, and that's how I learned about the resignation agency. That's how I learned about it. Because I already knew about the apology stuff, you know, because my friend. But that's how I found out that you can hire somebody to help you quit. And resignation agency. Do you know how crazy that is? Let's take a look at this one.
貧血で倒れそうだっていうことで体調不良を上司に伝えたと。そしたらフライパンでも舐めとけと。
Look, a frying
っていうことかわ
pan.
からないですけど、まあそういった暴言を吐かれたっていうのがもうずっと気になってて、もう退職を決意された方がいらっしゃいましたね。
Tanimoto runs a resignation agency that helps Japanese workers to quit their jobs, which can be a stressful experience.
日本の労働慣行というのはあくまでその仕事に対して人が応募してつくのではなくて、その組織のメンバーになるという契約を結ぶような形になるんですね。なので、組織会社との、全く白紙の委任契約みたいな形で会社が大きな人事権を持って仕事をさせますと、そこまでお世話になった会社に対して辞めていくということは組織への裏切りだと思われてしまうので。
For 22,000 yen, or $147, a consultant will call to resign and arrange for administrative processes on behalf of the worker.
なぜ退職代行、私どもに依頼をしたのかというところは理由はお聞きしてもよろしいでしょうか。はい、
一度上司に退職の意思を伝えた際に、上司の上の上司から面談があるというふうに伺ったんですけど、それがないままちょっと流れてしまっていて、自分の口から言っても変わらないかなって思って退職代行を調べてたんですけど。
Do you know how fucked that is? Almost $150 USD to ask to quit your job. The shame and guilt culture in Japan and South Korea to a certain extent is fucked up. It's fucked. I know we kind of like, I just wanted to add on a little bit to his like the quitting thing, because you know I feel like that's proper. Like you're gonna get the full authentic, you know, me. So when I need to be like, wait, I need to show you what I'm referencing, I will look for the thing to show you what I'm referencing. Like that's just who I am. I'm not gonna just say something and then just be like, oh, look it up. No, we're gonna look that up together. And if that makes the video longer, it makes it longer. I'm so sorry. But that's just what I do. I do all of this off the top of my head. Literally off the top of my head. And, you know, that's just what you get with me. Oh, but speaking of which, let's continue the video.
In America, we'd probably just say, yeah, fuck you, I'm not doing that. And we'd probably be fine. On top of that, word would get out about this company doing this kind of shit, and they'd either be put out of business or at the very least, see both internal and external pressures from investors, customers, and the government to at least partially change their ways. Despite how rough we got it over here, at least Western society has a strong enough influence on companies and organizations to universally shun practices like this, unlike turning a blind eye to it like what happens in Japan. Just to be real, this is not saying the West is superior or anything like that, it's just quirks of our culture and that Japan is a very high trust society, which is kind of the opposite from the US. Alright, let's just leave all traditional work behind. Let's say you're an artist and that you want to work for an anime studio or draw for a living. Well, I hope you enjoy having every last drop of creativity and your enjoyment of your work sucked out of you by big publishers attempting to work young and inexperienced people to death with little pay. Young people, often from lower income countries such as Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, etc., even have work outsourced to them simply because they will work harder for less money. Big studios will use their beloved lineup of shows and create a sort of wow effect to create an idealized vision of what being a part of a team that creates an anime is really like. If you remember, about a year ago, the studio behind the anime Jujutsu Kaisen, MAPPA, was under a lot of fire for working their animators so hard for such little pay that they could barely keep themselves afloat and had to make a choice between seeing their families or keeping their jobs. Long story short, in 2023, it came out that MAPPA had forced its employees to sign a non-disclosure agreement related to the working conditions of the company. It's basically forcing them to stay silent against their will. A common tactic they use is outsourcing the drawing of in-betweens, basically like references between which an animation will move, and pay those artists, often newer and experienced ones, per still they draw. You might be thinking, oh yeah, it's probably, pretty quick to draw these and they might get paid like $10 a drawing. Yeah. How about averaging around $1 to $2 per completed drawing that can take anywhere between 10 minutes to an hour to complete? Essentially, most animators in the industry can expect to make about the same as a US minimum wage worker. In 1997, in an economy with a frequently weak and volatile currency, even if you're a higher paid individual, the amount of time you'll have to work will be absolutely soul-crushing. Expect up to 11-hour days with its previously mentioned low pay. Even disregarding the ridiculous hours, you can't even compare it to similarly low-paying jobs elsewhere because, often, people can work second jobs. Many of my teachers growing up would also do bartending on the side or run a separate business because they had mostly free weekends and time over breaks to make money. This isn't even possible with an 11-hour workday schedule. Okay, fine. Let's say you land the perfect job, are treated well, and genuinely enjoy your life. Well, good luck seeing any meaningful growth in the industry you work in and the economy you live in. Japan, since the 90s, has been struggling to grow economically. They basically tried everything under the sun. Negative interest rates, enticing foreign workers, government programs to help stimulate the economy, etc. Almost none of this has worked. It's gotten to the
Abenomics. Yeah. How that doohickey taste, Shinzo Abe. The fucking doohickey. But no, that's horrifying. I didn't know, like I heard like brief things about the controversy MAPPA went through a few years ago, but I didn't realize it was that bad. And obviously, oh shit, I did not realize it was that bad. That's actually terrible. And I feel like the best thing, like, because he's about to get into the economics of it, and I'm like, you see how these people, like, they can't, I feel like Japan is in a hard place because, look, like, in terms of economy wise, because look at how they're living. Like, if you're working a company, especially now black companies, which is, and of course it had to be it couldn't be like a crimson company or anything like that. No, it's a black company because, it's the inherent black things are bad, and that's a conversation for another day. But it's crazy to me. Like, Japan's in a hard spot. I don't think they'll be able to grow until they really up the cost of what they're paying to people and allow them to actually live a life. Because I heard their population growth is hindered too. And a lot of people don't even want to get families or even get married because of the harsh work conditions that they have. So it's like, you want to see your stuff grow, you want to see things grow, you gotta release the reins. Like, you have to treat people like how you want to be treated. It's crazy to me. And truth be told, as much as I hate the shame culture, I wish America had a shame culture. Like, we don't, we somewhat have it, but it depends on situations. It depends on actually no, it depends on the wealth. On wealth. If your wealth is like into the high millions, into billions, ain't nobody shaming anybody. That just don't happen. But like anything from like low millions to like normal person, the shame tactic works. But we need a stronger like shame culture in America. That's the one thing, like, because anybody could get shamed in a country that has like a strong shame culture. Anybody from the richest of rich to the poorest of poor can be shamed to horrific standards. And America needs shame culture. I think that would fix a lot of America's problems. Like, can you imagine a shame that, you know what? I don't want to. I'm trying not to talk politics. I'm on a break from politics. So I feel like America needs to up their shame culture. Not to the extent that they have it where you have to actually hire, you like go to a resignation agency. But like, to make people understand that what they're doing is wrong. That's pretty much what I'm saying.
The point that Germany, an economy that 20 years ago had a third of Japan's GDP, has recently just surpassed it. And while this is a problem that is less tangible than, say, the aforementioned black company thing, its effects are felt societally and on the macro scale. The yen is volatile and weak against the dollar and euro. As an example, when I went in July, $1 ended up getting to a wild 160 yen. By the time September came around, it had fallen to 140 yen per dollar, aka the yen became more valuable. Now, as of December, it has risen back to almost 150 yen to the dollar, nearly breaking 160 yen in mid-November. So, if your plan is to make some money and leave, good luck keeping the value of your work in place. While it might sound good that the fluctuations can go up and down and, maybe you could time it, the volatility affects both the economy of Japan and your ability to find suitable work. While I'm not going to pretend I can give you a dissertation on the macroeconomic effects of currency instability, just know that it's not really a good thing. And just a quick aside, if you like this type of content and want to see more of it on this channel, just let me know by subscribing and leaving your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to start a discussion about my findings and opinions. Alright.
And speaking of which, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see, gaming stuff and also reaction videos like this one. Thanks for the assist, Jax. Appreciate it.
Alright, fine. The work sucks, the economy isn't great, but let's just ignore that. What if little Joshua wants to be a content creator, like those cool people he's seen over on YouTube? They can work for himself and not to put up with all the bullshit of the black companies or the job market in general. Well, the problems don't really end there. To succeed in any new culture, you gotta, to the shock of many of my fellow Americans, integrate with said new culture. With that comes learning a new language, understanding local customs, and being privy to their expectations. And oh boy, while Japanese culture might seem cool on the outside, on the inside, it's really a
toxic as hell,
ready to devour those who are not prepared to adapt quickly and appropriately to its requirements and off-putting aspects.
Toxic.
I know the job market over here is bad, but I'll find a way. Just like my favorite anime character, Itsumi Rinkaro from Ota Ota Rinkaro. Everyone will learn to love me, and I'll learn to love and appreciate them too. Then, one day, I'll find true love from an extremely skinny and pasty white woman with blue hair, big eyes, and massive tits. Let's be honest here.
He should have used Deku. He should have used Izuku for that. He straight up should have just used Izuku, because his voice sounded more like Izuku than it did Goku. I just wanted to point that out.
Here, Japan has a bit of an image problem. And I don't mean a Dr. Disrespect kind of image problem. I mean one of unrealistically high expectations. Whether that be due to an incorrect perception of Japanese culture because of anime, a belief in a purely honorable and polite nation, or some twisted hypersexual interpretation of its lifestyle. As much as I understand, most don't fully believe in any
fuck harem animes. Yeah, I said it. Like, unless you're like that 100 Girlfriends anime, which actually like is really good, fuck harem animes. School Days has ruined me. Like, and here's the thing, I enjoy like, and I enjoy like harem fan fiction if they like spread it out and let them all kind of like love each other instead of just loving the guy, There's always a guy in the middle. You seldom see a girl, you know. Like recently it's starting to get into like, you know, like I think that Villainous show, I Can't Be in Love with a Villainess, is like a female harem show, which is great. But like it was always just a guy. And I can't jive with that. It's like myself, I couldn't be in a harem situation without the girls also feeling something for each other too. Like if they feel like, oh, you know, we're like best friends and sisters, I guess that's okay. But like, no. Like I want us all to be on an even keel. Like I'm not gonna sit here like a fucking pharaoh. You know, I'm not gonna sit there like fucking Emotep, who's not a pharaoh. I don't know why Emotep came to mind, but harem animes suck. I dislike, and the worst part is a lot of harem animes don't even end with the harem. Like, you know what, Tenchi Muyo, which was my first ever like harem anime, and I love Tenchi Muyo. It has a strong place in my heart. At least in Tenchi Muyo, he winds up loving all the women equally and stays with all the women that he's with. And a lot of harem animes, they just tease the haremness out of it, but then at the end he chooses, you know, the bland best friend character, like the bland childhood friend character. That's not a harem anime. That's just a tease. Stop it. I hate harem animes, but I hate the teasing factor more than I hate the harem anime. Like on Host Club, I despise that show. Because there's a lot that I don't like about Oran High School Host Club. But that's one of the things. It's like, don't have all the ship teasing with, you know, all these characters and then end up with the goofy blonde one. Kyoya is like right there. But I digress. Harem animes are just shit, except when they're really good, like Wanja Girlfriends. That's pretty much it.
Any of these three ideas, you'd be hard-pressed to find people in the, quote, Japan is amazing crowd who don't fall victim to one of these misconceptions. In this part of the video, I'm gonna weave my own experiences alongside the thoughts and experiences of others to make sure you're getting the most well-rounded view of it all. For now, let's start in a more generalized place and work our way inwards. Xenophobia is something many of us have heard of.
Rampant.
If you're new to the English language or aren't totally sure what that means, you're probably not American. But what that basically means is the fear of people from other countries. Again, while I must stress this is not a universal statement for Japan,
yeah, America is a very xenophobic country. Like like a lot of people may not think of America like that, but they are. America is a very xenophobic country. America is also a very racist country. Like they don't like. Okay, you know what? Let me amend that a little bit. America is xenophobic to brown countries. Let me just fix that. If you're anywhere from like Ireland or Germany or Switzerland or the UK, come on in, open arms. But if you're from like a brown country, especially a brown country that America themselves have fucked over time and again, Haiti, xenophobic. So America is selectively xenophobic and selectively racist. And I understand that all comes down to the Great Replacement theory, you know, that a lot of like racist people seem to believe in. And that's why a lot of the actions that you're seeing right now in America, you know, with ICE and things like that, that's why that's happening. Don't let these idiots and all this other stuff fool you. That is the reason. There was a study back in the day that said that by like 2050, I believe, or something like longer than that, you know, white Americans would no longer be on top. It'll be like something like Mexican Americans. And people freaked out. And like a lot of racist people freaked out, and that's where the Great Replacement there, the Great Replacement theory comes in, and why a lot of the actions that we're seeing is because of that. And it's funny to me because it's like, okay, well, racist people, why don't you want to be in a minority? Do you feel like you treat the minority of people bad? Why are you so fearful all of a sudden? Are you inherently saying that, you know, there are some things that are better when you're in the majority? Like, what are you saying? Because I understand I understand, like, I'm Hataki Kakashi, okay? I look underneath the underneath. So I understand that they don't want to be the minority because they're afraid of being treated how they treat minorities. And what does that mean? That there's a certain thing that exists that people will frankly say that doesn't exist. White privilege. Okay? That's literally why everything with ICE and stuff is going on. It's not about the border. It's not about illegals. It's not about that. Because if it was about illegals, they wouldn't be targeting people that are legally in the country trying to do it the right way. It's all about that great replacement, theory. Because a lot of white Americans, not all, but a lot of white Americans know that white privilege exists and know that they treat minorities awfully. And if they become the minority, they fear that they fear that the rooster will come home. I can't remember the idiom, but they're fearing that what they reap will sow. Like, that's where their fear is. And that's why everything's kind of going on. And I know I said, I'm not going to talk about, politics, but I wanted to expand on the xenophobic, because a lot of people don't think America is xenophobic, but they are xenophobic to brown countries. They're very xenophobic and very racist. So I understand also understand why Japan is xenophobic, but I'll let Jax explain it.
Foreigners, often due to race or ethnicity, are discriminated upon in Japan. This obviously happens in other countries too, but the main reason I'm talking about it here is because Japan is, again, often idealized unnecessarily and tends to attempt avoiding this image. While the problem is often overblown a bit, there are lots of subtle things that may or may not affect your ability to live here comfortably. I will say, personally, I didn't experience any noticeable discrimination, but I'm also a tall, skinny white guy, so there's that. An anecdote from one of my friends I'd like to tell is this. His dad, who's Puerto Rican, which if you didn't know is an island territory of the United States that's mostly inhabited by Hispanic people, went to Japan on a business trip sometime before COVID. Just a note, his dad specifically is definitely not a white person. After arriving at this hotel, he decided to get to the pool. Once he got in, every single Japanese person got up and left. There's instances of stuff like this on public transport, people getting up moving seats, etc. It's not overly common, but it's also more noticeable than in America or Europe for most places. Like I said, every country has issues like that, but I want to help bring some people back down to earth about how Japan may be represented in television or otherwise. I mean,
yeah, so pretty much the standard, like back when I could travel and stuff like that. Like I said, I've said that I've been here before. I experienced that quite a bit, but I also experienced the never seen a black person before look. If you know that look, you know what I'm like. If you've been abroad to like a place where like black people aren't really seen, you know the look I'm fucking talking about. You know the look. Like, and they'll come over and like you're a unicorn and like be like, wow, amazing. They'll take pictures with you and stuff like that, and and they'll quote like and at least for me, I had a few that quoted like something from like a black movie, and I'm just like, so like white people won't experience that often in countries like, Japan and South Korea. But yeah, for anyone, that's below the famed Family Guy, color chart. Yeah. Wild. And it's weird to me. It's weird to me that this is so that, because I know that like white privilege doesn't, because like in countries like Japan and South Korea, you know, this is more of a colorism issue. You know, like they have their racism, of course. Like, again, you know, Family Guy thing. Every country has that. But in a lot of cases too, it's also colorism. Because I know for example, in China, they used to praise people that they used to hate, you know, tan people because they know that they're servants, or they work in the fields, for example. And so anytime you see someone who's tan and things like that and darker, that's the image that comes to mind. And a lot of people that have that really, you know, pale skin, they're like, ugh, and then go away. And it's funny how in societies that worship whiter skin, whether it's, you know, white, you know, whether it's Caucasian people or, you know, or like East Asian people, that is such a issue, is the colorism and the racism. It's just interesting to me.
You've probably seen it. Most anime you watch have people of like every skin color and race and gender, and genuinely an impressive amount of diversity, which can potentially mislead people into how some areas of Japan may treat foreigners. Now, onto a problem that's mostly unique to Japan: over-sexualization and sex crime. If you're a woman, or in some cases, a man who dresses feminine, this part's for you. Do you notice how in literally every anime, except ones made by a woman, Fullmetal Alchemist being a fantastic example, largely speaking, all of the women have this extremely over-sexualized vibe to their clothes, mannerisms, and general demeanor?
Mechanically, Sailor Moon. Do you know it was only recently? Okay. I'm about to out myself real bad. But back in the day, in the mid 2000s, there was a website. There was a goon website called Dragon Moon X. And this website showed gooning materials between Dragon Ball Z characters and Sailor Moon characters. I did not know until like in like my later teens, that they were canonically like 16 something years old. I was like, oh, and they had stuff like that. Like the over sexualization in anime is like, and it's really bad, and it gets to the point like, remember High School of the Dead? Exactly. And for people that don't know why I'm saying exactly, there's only two things that come up with High School of the Dead: the animation and the animation. And to be very specific, you have the crisp and violent animation. Then you have a bullet swaying through a girl. You know what? No. You know what? Fuck this. Hold on. You want to know the crazy part? When I searched up High School of the Dead sniper, that's the scene that pops up. And I bet if I search up High School of the Dead, that scene will still. Oh, I should have full episodes? I should react to this. No, I shouldn't. No, I shouldn't. Never. But okay. It appears here. Not the very top because of the episodes, but still on the first page. They were in high school, remember? And that's how they were animated. Enough said.
What about the amount of anime and manga that features some aloof loser, some
And also, look, I know people love My Hero Academia, but do I need to bring up how Hakagure Toru was treated? Do I need to remind people how she was released? The cover of how she was released? We had literally only saw an image of her actual face. She's the invisible girl in the show, by the way. Do we need to revisit that cover? 16 years old. Remember that. Remember that.
Somehow stumbling into some magical world or perfect school where a bunch of high school girls are just absolutely gobsmacked by him and constantly want to get in his pants. What about the permeation of lolly culture into the media and in other places where they really shouldn't be, like with massage parlors and escorts? Well, we'll get into the specifics later, but for now, let's preface the current situation with some actual events that have showcased how out of control this has gotten in Japan. I guess a good place to start would be the adult escorts others often spotted and often had come up to us
in the red
Tokyo
districts.
and Osaka. This obviously is not unlike many other places that you can travel to, but the difference here is the clothing and general aesthetic the organizations running these establishments and managing these escorts put on for tourists and locals alike. Many of them are dressed in childlike clothing or maid outfits and have tons of makeup on to further accentuate what are known as neonatal features, often involving the appearance of larger eyes alongside a smaller nose and mouth. Similarly, they talk in high-pitched voices like a young schoolgirl would in most of Japanese media. On top of this, I've even heard of establishments that specifically roleplay high school-style scenarios for customers if they pay a certain fee, often revolving around a classroom setting or a public transport setting.
And I also want to add on to this by saying that as a VTuber, yeah, because I am one. I'm a vroider, but whatever. As a vroider, I kind of know. I noticed that a lot of VTubers also speak in that, like, have adopted that from this type of thing, where they speak in a higher voice than they're meant to. Like, oh wow, Jolly J, Mister. Oh senpai. I don't understand. Like, I can't speak in a high voice for that long, but I noticed that VTubing also kind of adopted that, and I really hate that it did. Because I know it's a part of idol culture, and a lot of VTube, especially in the big corpos, are, basically idols, but I hate it. I hate it so much because that can destroy your vocal cords. If you speak, especially if it's out of your range, like some people are lucky where they have like the vocal training to be able to talk like that for long periods of time and not even break a sweat. But others who don't, and you have to strain it, it hurts your vocal cords a lot. So I hate that happens. Also, yeah, the sexual things in Japan is crazy. It's like actually crazy because you have, your adult stuff. Then you have like gravures, like which is like more softcore goon. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's rampant. It is rampant. The way they see women is it's out of control.
This is really unlike anywhere else I've ever been to or heard of, and it really prefaces this situation on how out of control it has gotten. That's not to mention other strange things like that used panties vending machine or billboards showing young anime women in bikinis or other forms of revealing clothing everywhere. I promise you I'm not being a prude. It doesn't offend me, but it's something off-putting to see in a public and well-traveled area rather than in the usual red light district or in a more adult-centered area.
And I agree. Like seeing that, like I'm not like someone that will, like, you goon to what you goon to, right? It's not my business. I don't really care. I wish other people had that mindset of it, but it's true. It's not my business. Unless it's something like CSAM, which is where I will start to care and I will actively snitch on you after beating your ass. Anything other than that, as long as it's, consensual, and as long as it's like, it's not my business. But seeing that stuff outside of like a red light district is jarring because you don't really see that in like that was one of the things that also kind of like, huh? Made me took me aback, So let's continue.
The over-sexualization and frequent pushing of childlike features in sexualized mediums has really created a lot of issues. What might those be? Well, let's talk about some of them. Some of us know the fact that, at least until recently, the age of consent in Japan was an eye-watering 13 years old.
Whew,
13!
geez.
This led to a notoriously sketchy legal framework that often let people who abused kids off with minimal repercussions.
This actually... I love Rurouni Kenshin, right? I love Rurouni Kenshin. Do you know why I wear this bandage over my cheek? Is because I couldn't find a good X scar to match Kenshi Himura. And like, he was the reason why I loved scars on cheeks as much as I do. Next to Cammy from Street Fighter. I can never support anything that this monster has done because like, I can't support the series that I love because of the monster who created it. Like, unlike J.K. Rowling, you know, and like, I can't separate the art from the artist. I can't do that. Like, I know a lot of people be like, oh, separate the art from the... No, I can't do that. Not in this circumstance. I can't do that with a lot of circumstances. Like, if the person is like homophobic or racist or, you know, transphobic or anything like that, I can't separate the art from the art. Like, Ender's Game was one of my favorite books of all time, and yet the dude was a whole homophobe, which is crazy to me because there was a lot of homoerotica, like homoeroticism in Ender's Game. It was actually crazy. Like, how can you do that and like miss them? Like, what the hell are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't like Harry Potter, but even if I did, I would have to cut everything of J.K. Rowling out of my life because of the things that she's doing and the things that I know that she's actively using her profits from Harry Potter to do. I love Rurouni Kenshin. Freckles is still in my top 10 favorite anime songs of all time. I love that anime, but I can never watch it again. I can never talk about it, even though it's goated. It got cut off, like, sadly, in an anime. And then it came to realize, like, after the fact, that Kaoru was like, what? Like 16 during Rurouni Kenshin? Hold on, let me just verify that. I hate this website so much. But yeah, she was like 17 at the start of the series, which isn't, it's still rough. You know, like, how old was Kenshin? He was 28? Holy shit. What the fuck are we doing here, man? What the fuck are we doing here? I don't understand. But this is why. This is why I'm glad I trusted my gut. Dude was 28? Perving on a 17? Are you fucking serious, man? What are we doing here? What is this? What is this? Damn it. Every time I feel like I've made peace with you know, Rurouni Kenshin, I feel like a new layer of anger and tragedy unfolds before my eyes when I find out something new. Holy, I cannot believe it. He was 28? You know how old I thought he was this entire fucking time? I thought he was at least 19. He was 28? He was... what are we doing here, man? Fuck this guy. Fuck this guy. Just ruined my... oh my gosh. Thank goodness. If anything ever came out about the mangaka that created, Yu Hakusho, I don't think I live on this planet anymore. Truly.
This all came to a head in 2023 when a 56-year-old Japanese politician thought it would be, quote, strange if he was arrested for having intercourse with a 14-year-old girl.
Cause I like high school girls, that's why!
Saying this in America would have your head splattered against a brick wall by some people.
Oh yeah, good, by some people. I'm glad he said it.
But for most of recent Japanese history, this would have been seen as a problem by only a small but growing contingent of everyday citizens. The government, however, was silent on this issue for decades, still basing their age of consent on a law from 117 years ago. Finally, with these comments, the Japanese parliament voted to raise the age of consent from 13 to 16, which is still quite low compared to many other countries. They also finally redefined what they called, quote, forced intercourse, as now belonging under a general guise of non-consent. Basically, until very recently, there were numerous cases of non-consensual but non-violent cases of this act occurring that were thrown out or significantly lessened in their severity if the victim was over the age of 13 and, quote, could not prove that the interaction was violent.
Crazy.
Only if they were under 13 was the, quote, violence part ignored. On top of this, Japan has a huge issue with minor sex crimes such as battery assault or groping on public transport. While officially, Japan's rate of non-consensual assault, sorry, I'm not trying to get demonetized, is more than 37 times less than that of the US, that's because an estimated 95% of cases are not reported. And for children, as well as members of the LGBT community, it's likely a lot lower. On top of this, many schoolgirls report that this happened to them at least once while on public transport. I mean, Jesus, I remember one being on an escalator in Akihabara and seeing signs on the wall that said, quote, beware of upskirting. But what might be the root of all this behavior? And why is it—
You see those signs a lot. Like when I went, there were a lot of those signs, like especially on the trains. Especially on the trains. Like you'd be shocked.
Continue to worsen over so many years? Well, my friend, that may come down to much of the media, and especially anime that's being produced in Japan, as well as a overall culture of silence that discourages people from speaking out against their abusers. I can speak from experience. Japan is a huge issue with everyday over-sexualization, especially of childlike features. As I mentioned earlier, I can give so many examples of instances where I saw escorts on the side of the street harassing friends of mine while dressed in little maid skirts and wearing makeup that enhance their more childlike features. Other, less lascivious examples involve what are known as, quote, idols, which are usually young-looking adult women in largely revealing clothing that sing and dance for crowds of older men in a weird hybrid of anime and real life. Here's a video I got in Osaka of this very thing happening randomly when I was walking down the street. This place fucking rules. As I mentioned earlier, if you've ever watched like an anime before, you've seen how often high school kids, young girls, and even trans people are sexualized.
Yes, very much so. Yes. And like I said, I hate that big corporation, like big VTubing corporations have kind of taken in to the idol culture, because that culture is toxic as fuck. Like me, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I am who I am. Okay? I am a black dude in America. That's who I am. I do not like MAGA in any way, shape, or form. Fuck those people. Okay? I don't like them. And I don't make bones about that. I keep true to myself. All right? I'm not going to sugarcoat myself for no one. This is who I am, like it or not. But I feel like when people go into, like, with other VTubers, especially those in like corpos, like, you know, not so much VShojo, but honestly, Hololive as a corporation, like, people need to just be able to live their lives. Let them be in a what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is the parasocialness of it all, you know? And I know that's funny to say, aha, the YouTuber, you know, I get that. But I came up on like the YouTube, you know, we had like the Game Grumps and, you know, like the Two Best Friends play and things like that. Like where like I can enjoy what I'm watching, but like keep myself detached, like from not becoming parasocial. And it's impossible. And I'm not saying being parasocial is bad. Being parasocial is something that happens to everyone, whether we know it or not. It's very ingrained. Like you could be parasocial to a sports team. You could be parasocial to, a politician. As we know, Bernie stands and Trump stands. Why did I say it like that? Bernie stands and Trump stands. Yes, you could be very parasocial to, a politician, to a movie star. You could be parasocial towards anything. Like, why do you think in fan fictions, like, self-inserts are there? And that's gonna get a lot of heat. But you could be parasocial. You could be parasocial towards anything. But it's like, it's not intentional that, like, you're being parasocial in that sense. You're not trying to form such severe attachments. That's not what you're trying to do. But it happens. I will never knock it for happening to you. But I feel like idol culture, it's profiting off of that parasocialness. Like, if people want to be like, hey, man, I'm going to drop $5 to you. Good work. Like, I feel like internet, I feel like what, like, people on YouTube, TikTok, whatever, we're pretty much just buskers. Like digitalized buskers is kind of how I think of us. It's like, hey, if you want to enjoy my work, you can enjoy it. If you want to donate, sure. Nice. That'll help me out. Really appreciate it. But I'm not, like, actively using that parasocialness for profit. And that's why I have such a problem with idols, and why I hate that, like, Hololive, goes about it in an idol-like way, because it's profiting off of, being parasocial to, like, insane degrees. And again, some people, could, like, I like watching, Doki Bird. Like, I like watching her stuff. I think she's very funny and talented. I like watching Bao, Bao the Whale. I think she's funny and talented. I like watching Gigi Murin. I like Ina. I like Raora. Like, I'm a Chatino. I get it. But I know that, but what makes it hard to fully, like I can't ignore that part of my head that's going, I don't want to get attached to this person because I don't know them on the other side. Like, any of those people that I talked about, they could be one of the very things that I despise. They could be racist. They could be homophobic. They could be transphobic. They can be xenophobic. They could be, a MAGA supporter. Like, they could be anything that I dislike. So I have to look at them as what they are, and that is entertainers. You know what I mean? And I have to make sure that I don't get too involved in, like, defending, a VTuber or anything like that. I have to keep that reasonable distance. I don't ever want to be put in a position to profit off of being parasocial. Like, I'm not going to look at you guys and go, hey, you. Yes, you. I love you. You guys mean, like, that's not, all I want to do, what I do want to do, and what I've wanted to do from the start is to cultivate, like, a group, like, to cultivate a fan base, like, like Wooly and Pat, and have something that outlive me, like, the Super Best Friends subreddit. Like, yeah, they post stuff about, like, Wooly and Pat, every so often, but it's self-sustaining. It's a place where people can, it's really a place where, they, like, people, no matter who you are, black, white, gay, straight, trans, whatever, they can just be themselves and be encouraged to be themselves. That's what I want to create, a space where people are not afraid to be themselves. And yeah, you know, I would like to be the vehicle of that. But if something happens to me and I'm gone, I don't want it to fall apart. I want it to forever live that standard of being a safe space for people like that. That's what I want to do, you know? And I don't want that to be looked at as a parasocial thing. That's just me wanting to create a safe space for, you know, people like me that feel lost and abandoned and things like that. You know? Something to outlive me when I'm gone. So I hate that. So I hate idol culture because not only could I not be like that, I would have to, you know, censor myself all the time. You know, I would have to censor myself, you know, some of the things I talk about. You know, I would have to actively like, yeah, be parasocial with me. Give me money. Give it. You can't just enjoy my work. You have to give it to me. It can't be something that's offered like, hey, I like this, you know, I like, you know, Narissa Ravencroft. I'm going to buy a plushie, you know, to kind of show that. Like something like that, that's not parasocial. But I just hate idol culture because it leads to that. That's all I wanted to say. Whew. All right, I've been on my soapbox far too much lately.
A great example is an anime like Dr. Stone, which I myself really like, but there are multiple instances of often female characters who are canonically 16 or younger having very extreme proportions and a large focus on said body parts, often unnecessarily. I don't really need to list out more examples because I'm sure
I will. Fire Force. I love the anime, but I hate the fan service. Like, I don't know if it's because I've gotten older or because I know like what age are these characters. And like I said, I'm not a prude, but I realize I don't like fan service like that anymore. And it's like, be realistic with your proportions for the age that you're at. And again, like some women will like some girls at 16 will have that. Like they will fucking explode like that. So it's not like it's not like it's not possible, but you gotta treat them at the age that they are. And yeah, Japan doesn't necessarily do that, you know, with some of their animes. Or animes that some guys, like some men make.
you can come up with your own. On top of this, Japan has a huge issue with virginity. Yeah, really. According to a study conducted in 2019, over a quarter of Japanese people under the age of 40 are virgins. While this may seem like a bit out of left field, bear with me here. This issue is largely driven by an overworked nation of young people with no time or ability to meet each other. Despite the government attempting to spur development in this way, they've so far failed. It's a crisis that also affects nations like South Korea and even China to an extent. What this means is that, importantly, a lot of people, specifically men, have less knowledge and experience surrounding courtship and romance, which leads to the unfortunate reality that anime and NSFW anime, again I'm trying to keep my monetization, have led to unrealistic expectations for many.
And to add on that, the repression, you know what I mean? So not only does it give like unrealistic expectations in terms of romance and things like that, the repression of, you know, NSFW stuff in your own personal life. If you don't know, if you're like a virgin in that sense, you know, I feel like if you're a virgin and you have like the unrealistic expectations in terms of romance, you also have the unrealistic expectations of, you know, NSFW stuff. And because you have that, the only outlet you have is anime. Like if you're like or manga, if you're like a manga artist or writer or what have you. And then next thing you know, it's out there. Like it, so that's kind of what I wanted to add on to.
Steins Gate, while absolutely a great anime, have perpetuated scenarios like this. a man who's a giant loser that suddenly gets involved with like 40 attractive women that
Crazy.
also finds the love of his life among them. While I'm not saying this is impossible, it has gradually progressed to now, in more modern anime, we have what's known as the genre of isekai. Isekai, for the uninitiated, is a genre that you probably heard parts of before.
Yeah. I hate isekai. I actually despise isekai so much. I've never seen an isekai done right. Literally ever. I actively hate isekai so much. Like, if harem animes are my second dislike thing when it comes to animes, isekai is the first. I don't know when it started. You know what I'm gonna blame? Sword Art Online. That's one blame. I'm blaming Sword Art Online.
Someone in a usually shitty state of living one day dies or magically wakes up in some fantasy or video game world that they now have to explore and figure out. While not all follow this exact formula, it has become increasingly common. What has developed out of this is an increasing amount of stories that involve
forced labor.
Yeah, no, and I don't mean the horrors of real-life examples of this. I mean a male loser archetype being teleported into a video game world where he purchases women and doesn't necessarily use them, but it's very much implied that's the case. While this concept and goal is nowhere near universal, many shows incorporate creepy elements such as this in an attempt to either satisfy the creator themselves by using a self-insert, or to satisfy often male fans who have been gradually lulled into a normalization of this concept. And to be fair, shows that feature this are often criticized by parts of the Japanese public and the anime community, but they're still being made to this day, which tells me that there's definitely an audience for them. The reason I talk about this is to point out its ramifications. In other words, how exactly does this affect everyday life in Japan? Well, I have a couple anecdotes from my time in Japan that can hopefully help illustrate this. During my last few days in Japan, I was staying in Tokyo, specifically a couple blocks away from Akihabara, also known as Electric Town. While this place is genuinely pretty cool and has lots of good food and shops, there's other things that were a bit of a turn-off in terms of my enjoyment of the area. Billboards and signs often featured young-looking, scantily clad anime girls plastered everywhere, often mentioning new shows or advertising products.
That's crazy.
While yes, this is not a unique concept to Japan, I promise I've been to Vegas, I've never seen anything quite like this. It's genuinely a one-of-a-kind thing. Continuing the story, I was looking for a Hunter x Hunter figurine I wanted in a gift for somebody else, so I went on Google Maps to try to find a store that sold it. I wandered around with a friend until we stumbled across one specific store. As we walked in, it was noted that the store we needed to go to was on the 3rd story. So we got in the elevator, noticed the 3rd story was blocked off. We figured we'd check out the 2nd story just in case there was some glitch or it was mistyped or something. When those elevator doors opened, we were immediately blindsided by naked anime women everywhere, some even being underage.
Where are we right now? Dude, yeah, oh my fucking god, we should do.
Safe to say we didn't really stay long. This was not a one-time occurrence either. We'd frequently wander into stores and start climbing stairs to see where we'd end up, only to find ourselves in the back of the store with NSFW manga and other lewd images plastered all over the wall. Even figurines in regular shops that had storefronts facing the street often featured hypersexualized feminine characters on full display for everyone to see. Again, I'm not trying to be a prude. I'm a grown-ass adult. This doesn't really offend me. It's just how I know a lot of people might find this sort of thing weird and uncomfortable. I know that Akihabara isn't the sole representation of Japanese art and culture, but it's important to note that it's a center of nerd culture in Japan, and it's a good representation of anime and a decent chunk of Japan's art culture. The further ramifications of the normalization of this kind of sexualization of childlike concepts and a generally lax attitude toward sexualization in the first place show themselves in the laughably light punishments child offenders get in Japan, as well as a hush-hush culture involving offenses on people of all ages. Good examples of this include manga writer and artist Nobuhiro Watsuki, who, after being caught possessing underage material, was given a fine of $1,800. He was actually, at the time, currently writing a manga that had to be put on hiatus after his charges went public.
Actually
then,
pisses
after
me
he got
off.
caught and paid the fine, the manga resumed serialization, like nothing ever happened. Even if someone got off with a light punishment for such a crime basically anywhere else, there's no way in hell they'd never see the light of day in that industry again.
Yeah, except one is the president. Whoa, who said that? With that said, pisses me off. Pisses me off that he got such a light sentence. Honestly, I'll be real. I'd rather he had died and that information came out, because at least I could say, he's dead. He can't, get profits off of this. I hate it so much.
Similarly, the writer Tatsuya Matsuki was arrested and charged with 2 counts of indecent act on a female middle school student. He was given a sentence of 1.5 years, but it was instead suspended and he walked away a free man. Now, to be fair, his manga did not resume after this, but it still details how offenders often receive very light punishments for their actions. That's on top of the earlier mentioned cultural issues with calling out this kind of behavior publicly. So many cases like this probably go unreported or are thrown out privately in some way. Even if a punishment is given, it's often in terms of a civil case where a victim is awarded money for damages, but not a criminal case where the perpetrator actually received jail time for their actions.
What do we take away from this? Oh, conclusion, yes.
Is Japan a really, really fun place to visit for most people? Oh yeah, 100%. I had an absolutely fantastic time while visiting, and I recommend it to basically anybody who's fortunate enough to go. And I guess in that sense, I should extend a huge thank you to my patrons and everybody who watched my videos, because the revenue I've acquired from running this channel actually helped pay for that trip, so every single one of you are basically a patron for this video. After hearing what you've heard today, would you actually move there? Given the frequently abusive work culture, low wages, difficulties of social integration, volatile economy, and over-sexualized media, while I don't believe Japan is the only nation with issues like this, again, let me make that very clear. The main reason I made this video is to help break the myth of Japanese exceptionalism and bring some people back down to reality regarding the place. Now, of course, there are exceptions to this rule. I've known of people who have moved to Japan and have been able to thrive just fine. However, I really believe those people are outliers, as I've heard many more stories of people feeling lonely, isolated, and generally depressed after moving there, especially coming from a hyper-social society like America, or even various parts of Europe. I know this video is very different from my usual content, but please let me know if you want more of this content by subscribing and letting me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe I'm wrong in any of my opinions, or do you think I understated some problems? I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts. But other than that, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you guys later.
And so that's the end of that video. Holy shit, this is almost 2 hours long. But yeah, that's pretty much how I kind of feel about it. You know, there are good parts about Japan. There are some annoying parts about it. But all in all, it's not like this grand mecca, you know? And I always have my doubts because of, you know, who I am and where I'm from. I have my doubts on any country that's hyped up, because for me, when I hear, you know, how hyped up a place is, I usually go, well, that kind of depends on, you know, who you are, right? Like I said, I had a great time there, but I also was very cognizant of everything that was going on there too, and how people looked at me and things like that. So yeah, so that was me reacting to Jax's No, You Don't Want to Move to Japan. If you guys have anything else you want I hate cars. If you guys have anything else you want me to react to or anything like that, you know, be sure to, you know, like, comment, and subscribe. You know, once again, thank you guys so much for your time. This has been Blues. And, well, goodbye.